Week. This is just not happening in reality. So you can sit here and you can argue all day, oh, well, we could give the women some special forces training. But it's not, why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they doing that?
99% of the casualties are men.
Yes.
So that might suggest that the women are dying at a less high rate because they are better at it.
No, because they are.
Lord Jake Rattlesnake teams up with this coolie fellow to debate the Soy Pill and Wick TV on the Raging Tomatoes channel about if we need traditional gender roles. Now, obviously, these two Chads over here will be debating. The common sense side is that, yes, we do need gender roles, while these two soy boys over here will be debating otherwise. Let's see how this debate goes down.
I'm going to slip it in there.
Community, one's neighbors, or, as I would argue, should the individual be able to make the choice for themselves on who they want to be and what they want to do? Should society or the government restrict access to a woman who wants to enter the workforce? Who wants to start a business or run a company? No. Should society or the government restrict access to a man who wants to stay at home to raise his sons and daughters while his wife goes out and earns money for their household? I don't think so. The question is, who gets to decide? The argument of
children and be wives and mothers, etc., then there is no incentive for men to keep on doing that. So we're at a stage now in society where we have a much lower birth rate, where people aren't pair bonding as much when they're younger, and then men, I think, have less and less incentive to actually fulfill those masculine roles, and they're wanting to become TikTokers and YouTubers now instead of becoming plumbers and carpenters, etc. So there is a bit of an issue actually playing out before our eyes with this.
Go ahead.
Sure. Well, when you say incentive to perform these roles, I mean, they do get paid a salary. The money is exchanged. They're offered a contract. Say, hey, if you do this job, we will give you X, Y, and Z. Here's the money you'll get per year. Here's the benefits you'll get per year. So when you say incentives, I think you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you seem to be implying that there's a lack of incentive for.
Well, do you think that incentive is purely materialistic?
If I may finish my question, right?
I can. You're rambling. I understand.
Hold on. Let him finish the thought, please, and then you can respond.
It's a simple question. I get it. Yeah.
I mean, you don't even know my question. You haven't even heard me answer.
You're saying that is the incentive purely materialistic? You're saying they have a materialistic incentive.
That's not what I'm asking you.
Okay, go for it.
Go ahead and finish the question, Wick.
Right? My question is, my statement here is that you seem to be implying that this materialistic incentive is not enough. So I'm going to ask you directly, what incentives do you think that are lacking for men today that you think men should have access to? Should a company provide them a wife or something? Is that what you're trying to imply?
Should a company provide them a wife? No,
yes,
that's not what I'm saying.
Not material. If the material incentives that they are offered are not enough, which you seem to be implying, is that not correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, what extra incentives that they do not yet get are you wanting the company to offer, or the
I never said that it was
incumbent
upon the company to offer that. I said that men are incentivized by the idea that they can have a wife and that they can actually pair bond and they can mate with the opposite sex. This is what incentivizes men to build things. This is what incentivizes men to go out and create things. And also, men are very incentivized by the idea of legacy. Men want to pass on their genetics and they want to have a legacy over multiple generations. And if you don't think that men are incentivized by legacy and by the opposite sex, then that is just a completely delusional take. It's not incumbent upon the company to provide them with a wife, but societally, we should be in a stable society. A man can go out and work hard and make something of himself, and then he can have access to a wife and have access to being able to carry on his lineage, because that incentivizes men to go out and build things.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with any of your descriptions of that some people are absolutely incentivized this way. I'm curious what you're prescriptively suggesting, because I mean, if you look at any of the countries that are fighting, and this is happening all over the world, by the way, this kind of lack of replacement birth rate, whether it be in a more progressive place where you would say, oh, this is because of a lack of gender roles, or because it's in Hungary or Georgia where they're doing incredibly like pro-natalist policies that just aren't working. I'm curious as to why you would think that somehow returning to these gender roles would necessarily be the solution to what you deem as the collapse of society, especially when someone like South Korea is facing like the worst of this replacement rate, and they are one of the most traditionally conservative places in the world. It doesn't seem like it's a proper solution. And we can address, I guess, all the arguments about whether or not this has anything to do with whether or not we should prescribe these pro-family values in everyone, regardless of their gender. I don't think this is exclusive to men or women. And I don't think you can point to a country that is embodying this and somehow doing it because of the gender roles is succeeding.
So you said you can't point to a country that's succeeding in what, sorry?
You can't point to a country that's succeeding because of like they're strictly adhering to like all men need to do this, all women need to do this, and therefore now we have prosperous high birth rates and our economy.
Yeah,
is
we
flourishing.
can
Like, I just don't see that happening.
We can point to a country, Israel. You look at Israel and they've got a birth rate above 3. And one of the reasons why is because they have an Orthodox Jewish community that has a massive birth rate. They have a big IVF program, which is a bit, that's a different conversation. But they've also got the sort of family structures where the grandparents will come in and look after the children, etc. And they also have a lot of shame around having children outside of wedlock. So there's a lower rate of single motherhood, etc. But also they've got another thing, which is nationalism. They've got a lot of countries around them that want to take them out. So obviously they need to reproduce. And one of the Palestinian leaders, Yasser Arafat, is on record saying that his greatest weapon is the woman's womb. So that's how the Arabic countries around them think, that they want to outbreed them and, eventually whatever. So Israel is a really good example of that.
Can I ask a question, though? Because that is a good example. I'm happy you brought that up because that wouldn't be one that I would think of. But then I guess that would kind of contradict the whole idea of gender roles when I think of the fact that we put, I'm paid by them, by the way, they put women and men into the, IDF to serve in the military. And like, it seems like they're, if anything, kind of moving away from traditionally masculine, traditionally feminine things. Now, if you want to argue, we need to encourage some degree of like, birth pro-natalism to make a country survive, especially when it gets this dire, I wouldn't even argue with that necessarily. I just don't think that's the same thing as what society expects from people and saying that you need to do this or you're not a real woman and you need to do this and you're not a real man.
I've got a few points to touch here. So first of all, in terms of the Israelis and their the IDF, the women are all in support roles. The women are not out there on the front lines. If you look at the death toll of the IDF men to women, it's substantially more men. The women aren't going and fighting. The women are making TikToks and they're probably making the sandwiches for the guys and stuff. They're maybe standing at the traffic stops and pretending to do something. It's a little bit for show, but it is a part of this sort of nationalistic push that they have where they're like, everybody has the duty to serve the country, etc. You also brought up Japan and South Korea. These are really good examples. Now, what this actually does play slightly into the favor of what you guys are saying in the fact that there are other explanations for collapsing birth rates. One of them is urbanization. One of them is as a country becomes more wealthy and people live in smaller places and the population grows and people get more urbanized, they want to have less kids because, it becomes less affordable. But also these countries are atheist countries. They're not religious countries. They have some sort of cultural traditions, etc. But I think that the birth rate problem is a deeply religious problem. And it's a similar problem that we're having in the West at the moment, that as we go away from religion and as we go away from God, people have much less incentive to actually procreate.
But why would you say then it's happening in Georgia, which is like a kind of Orthodox country, or why would it be happening in these like sub-Saharan communities, which have religious ties and people like to fearmonger about how they're going to birth all these crazy migrants with these high rates, and yet they are also seeing the same decline. I think if you look into this at all, you'll see that there's actually no consensus as to why the birth rates are falling in all of these countries with completely different environments. It seems to be, I think there's a quote from someone that said, hey, if you could solve and show why this is happening, you'd win a Nobel Prize, because it's kind of baffling people as to why it's literally happening across the board, across all of these countries. Like, how can that all be from religious or lack of religion?
Well,
if I may,
the thing is, go ahead, Wick. Yeah, you could piggyback off.
This idea that the women who serve in the IDF are just kind of standing around pretending to do things is just not borne out by the facts. A lot of them do serve in security roles and other types of places. While yes, they're not all on the front lines fighting, I think logistics serves a valuable and logistics wins wars, frankly. And those are the people who are putting their lives on the line. And I just think that, like, to point out Israel as a place that has moved away from gender, that has moved away from gender roles in a large society, and using that to kind of promote your point that we need to stick with gender roles just doesn't connect.
The Orthodox Jews have
I've heard that
like
Ethan
8.
Klein's wife is a terrorist, and I don't think that could happen if she just was making sandwiches, but I'm not sure.
I wanted to give Cooley the opportunity to jump back in.
Yeah, no, I see where you guys are going with this. So the big thing, it's influence. Influence is the big thing. Like Jake is saying, he's saying like, religious is an influence, and then traditions is an influence as well. So question to you, Soy. You said that in your opening, you said that you believe that people should have freedom to choose. So let me just ask you a question. My question is, should people... should we promote and push gender roles to like move society that way? Should we influence people to adhere to gender roles, or should we not?
Right. So I think what's kind of been happening up until now, and we've kind of deviated this in the recent years, is that we have been pushing gender roles. We say, hey, men, you go work, provide for your family, you'll be happy. Hey, woman, stay at home, like make the home, raise the children, you'll be happy. And as we've kind of moved away from this, you see that like the stickiness of kind of pushing these roles is, I think, causing more harm than good in certain places. I don't think these are completely useless, by the way. Like, I agree, we should be promoting men to be hard workers. I just don't think we shouldn't be promoting women to also be hard workers. I think any of the good things you can take from these roles could be applied across the board. And unfortunately, what's happened now is because we've told men for so long, hey, if you're a hardworking go-getter guy and you go get a job, that's all you need to do. What that has done is created this kind of male loneliness epidemic where they realize, hey, I've done everything the gender role told me to do. I'm stoic, I'm progressive, I'm strong, I'm going out and I'm working, and it's just not enough anymore. And it's because we've limited what a man should be to this very narrow pigeonholed sort of definition. And I think that it is just more harmful to society than just saying, hey, like everyone needs to go out and do all of these virtuous things that we've been promoting with gender roles, just not exclusively to gender.
Yeah.
So it's crazy that Soy Pill could recognize that men feel like pigeonholed into this role and that they're doing everything they should be doing and not really getting much back to it. But instead of thinking like, well, yeah, that's because we've told women that they could do whatever they want, but men, they still have to fulfill this gender role, and maybe we should encourage women to fulfill their gender role more. Instead, his solution is just, well, we should teach men that they could do whatever they want too. If men want to be stay-at-home fathers, then they should be able to do that. We should teach men that they could be weak, but the thing is, that's not that they could be weak and vulnerable, but we have been doing that, and it hasn't gotten anywhere. Society still treats men a certain way. Like, we currently live in a society. Like, society still views men as a certain way, and it doesn't matter if we teach men they could be more sensitive, or they don't have to all be plumbers or something like that, or they don't have to go to war or anything. It doesn't matter. Men are still looked at as a certain way, and that's just because by default we are stronger than women. We're the ones that are more able to do these jobs, and quite frankly, I think in general, men don't want to be stay-at-home dads. And I think even if there was a push like propaganda where they're showing more stay-at-home fathers and stuff like that, I think in general men wouldn't want to do that. Men still get their value from what they could offer to a woman or a wife, to a woman. It's a Dave Chappelle joke, pretty much. Like the reason that men go out and become rock stars and all these things is to get women. That's it.
So you really haven't answered my question. So remember, in your opening, you said that people should have the freedom to choose, freedom of choice.
Yes.
Right. So my question to you is, if people have the freedom of choice, right? Mm-hmm. Choice, what should we influence them? Like, if you influence someone,
I know it's vague when I say virtuous.
Let me finish it up.
Let him finish it, and then
if you influence someone, they still have the ability to adhere to whatever you're influencing them on, or to neglect it. It's still choice. So my question is, should we influence society about feminism? Be an independent woman, I don't need a man? Or should we influence people to say, hey, you know what? These gender roles, these traditional roles, these are things that's good, even though they can still choose something else. We do see today with the influence of feminism, it actually led people to make a choice to not prioritize family and children and stuff like that. So my question to you again, should we influence people to adhere to gender roles? Yes or no?
Right. So sorry if this is vague. I promise I did answer your question, but I'll try to elaborate a different way. So when I say, hey, we should promote virtuous, well, okay, no is my answer, and I'll explain why.
Okay, got
so I do think we should be promoting virtuous behaviors.
Hold on, Cooley. Let him elaborate.
That's not what I said. So I think we should be promoting good behaviors that make society better. I think that gender roles as those behaviors are limited in the fact that if we tell everyone, hey, men can only do this and women can only do that, and if you're out of this spectrum of what I've defined a man and a woman should be, you're doing something wrong. I think that limits more than it helps at this point. And I think that all of the good things that do come from that, we can do agendered. That's what I'm saying. So no, I don't think gender roles should be promoted, because I think the good behaviors are independent of those and can be influenced independent of those.
Can I ask you a question, Cooley, if I may?
Sure. I was going to reply back to
So it seems like Soy Pill is operating under the assumption that men or women are just interchangeable, and therefore we should just be promoting the same things to both the sexes and just allow them to have the choice of whatever they want to do. But again, men and women aren't the same. Men are better at women for different things, and women are better than men for different things. And so, no, it wouldn't be ideal just to tell both the sexes, both the genders, that, oh, yeah, you guys could just do whatever. You could be the stay-at-home dad, and you could be the powerful CEO mom, and you could be the powerful CEO girl boss. It just doesn't work that way. Men and women aren't interchangeable.
Go ahead, Wick.
I
No,
can wait
Wick.
till you reply.
Wick.
It's
No,
fine.
Wick. You're fine. Ladies
Okay.
first.
Ladies first. Well, as I said, you
Got
can
'em.
go to Soy. Go ahead.
No, I'm really, Wick. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
That was very
Sure.
cucked of you.
Fair enough. I try to be kind, and thank you for allowing me to go.
Yeah.
If a man wants to stay at home and raise his children, which is not a traditional role that a man has, and his wife wants to go out and work and earn a living, etc., do you think that society should look down on that man for doing that?
Do I think society should look down on that man
Yes,
for doing
that
it?
society,
Okay.
his community,
give
his
you-
neighbors, etc., should disincentivize that man from doing that. Should
I'll
look
give you
down on
two
him,
answers.
etc.
Two
Go
answers.
ahead.
One, generally speaking, his wife will look down on him. So that will be the first thing. The wife will look down on him, even though the woman was influenced to prioritize a career. Like you said, hey, yeah, I want to go out there and get my bag. And he's in the home taking care of the kids. There's a very high probability. Women have a natural propensity to be repulsed by a man that's not operating in masculinity. You get what I'm saying? So yeah,
I
in
don't
some
actually, but
situations,
go
well,
ahead.
that's fine. And there's exceptions to every rule. In some situations, yeah, I'm sure it maybe works. You know, you get some masculine chick that she wants to be out there working, and you get some feminine male and he wants to be in a home with the children and he has low T. Yeah, I'm sure that relationship dynamic works. Kudos to them. Guess what? Exceptions don't make the rule. Right. So generally speaking, that wouldn't work. So what would be my general answer to your question? Yeah, I would. If I see that, I'll be like, you're a cuck. What are you doing in the house? You're a loser. You're a dork.
I don't think.
would
I
make
think the
fun of
issue
them.
here is you're prescribing that this is the majority of things, and therefore we should encourage it. And all we're saying is we shouldn't necessarily adhere and say this is the only thing you can do. And you kind of gave that away in saying, yeah, there are exceptions, and that's kind of our point: is that there are exceptions to this. I don't think that makes them less of a man, and I don't think we should be shaming people for making a choice which you yourself agreed can work in certain
Generally,
places.
the wife would think that he's less of a man.
And if she does, then he's got a problem. But that doesn't
And
mean
men
we should
in the locker
discourage them
room-
from
Unless you
trying
are
to do
his
things
wife.
like that.
Boys in the
on.
locker
All
room
right,
would think that
gentlemen,
he's less of a
gentlemen.
man. Oh, wait, you're at home cooking? I go home, food is already cooked for me, you dork. So generally, guess what? What's naturally going to happen is he's going to be made fun of. That's what's naturally going to happen, right? So
Okay,
promote
Is
this.
that a should or
No, it will happen.
okay?
It will happen. And
Yeah,
guess
well, so
and
we're
I
not
think
arguing, just to be
happen.
clear, we're not arguing that there's not good. Look, women give birth, right?
Yeah.
Apparently some men do now too, right? But that doesn't
No,
mean that a huge
is-
vast
that
majority of
never
women are the
happened.
ones giving birth, right? So we're not saying, well, we need to even this out. Men need to give more birth. We're saying that just because a vast majority of women are going to be giving birth to the next generation of people doesn't mean that prescriptively we should be telling them, hey, this means you have to be a homemaker. Hey, this means you have to do XYZ as a woman, right? This is
The
we're
point
not
that I'm
saying
making- I get what
Hold
you're
on, let him,
saying.
let him, let him
Okay, I'm
finish.
sorry. Go ahead.
They don't understand that it's not. Yes, there are oughts and duties, but we're more calling out a natural order to things. There seems to be like a natural order where men go out and provide, or women stay home and take care of the household. And when we've deviated away from this natural order, it hasn't made our society better. It's actually made it worse, where the birth rates are on a decline. Depression and such is higher. There are a lot more single, lonely women that are older now and realize, oh, what have I done? I should have had kids earlier. Many, many regrets on both sides. And so what we're saying is that maybe we should not deviate away from what has kind of worked. We're not saying we have to, but like maybe we shouldn't deviate what has proven to work. But these two and people who think like those two, I think they come at it from the whole but what about my women? Because they're not coming at it from the men. People who come at who are on the opposing side, they don't ever come at it like, we need more men in the homes. We need more stay-at-home dads. We need men to raise our children at the homes. Like, they're never coming at it from that point of view. They're always coming at it from the woman's point of view of, well, we shouldn't force women to stay home. You know, we shouldn't force them. What's next? Are we going to take away the right to vote? Handmaid's Tale? And all these other wacko things.
Yeah, no, I think
sorry, we're done. Okay. Go ahead.
No, I get what you're saying. And the point that I'm making is that people, like you said, in your opening, I want you to think a little bit, right? And I'm not saying this to like saying that you're not thinking, but like think on a question that I'm asking. Like, I was active listening to you. So in your opening, you said that you want people to have freedom of choice.
Yes.
Right? I believe that too. Have freedom of choice. Choose what you want. But guess what? We know that influence is a very powerful force, right? So since influence is a very powerful source, then I think that we should influence people to adhere to gender roles, because we know that leads to higher birth rates. We know that leads to a lot of good things in society. But even though there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, there's always going to be people that don't choose to adhere to gender roles. But guess what? Let's say if we promote some propaganda to not adhere to gender roles, then it's just going to increase the birth rates. It's going to increase the women not having children. It's going to increase women in the workforce and men being docile, like Wick's example of men being in the home, working and taking care of the children, and women out there working. It's just going to increase that. That's what I'm saying. The probability will definitely increase if we push the opposite of gender roles.
We're not saying that we need to push the opposite of gender roles. We're saying we don't need to push gender roles.
The
things that you're, by the way, the things that you're prescribing that are like
feminism is
a woman
the opposite of gender roles.
Debate, right? We're talking about, hey, we want more women to have give birth, right? Like, you can do that exclusively of saying, hey, woman, you need to do this or you're a bad person. It's just saying, hey, like, we're going to incentivize this because we need replacement rates, and so if you want to do this, you can. This is about the choice. It's not saying, hey, the opposite of gender roles is better. It's saying, hey, there's good things from gender roles, but I think that the negatives that come from that don't need to happen, and we can promote good behaviors exclusive of gender roles. This doesn't mean we have to do the opposite.
One quick question.
Hold on, I wanted to give Cooley the opportunity to respond, because he was
one quick question for you then, Soy Pill. Then do you want
no, you could, that's the point. That's the whole,
No, I mean, I kind of misspoke, but all right. So do you think that we should stop the propaganda and the push towards feminism, or should we, because like you want to stop this gender role and this masculinity and femininity dynamic, right? That's what you want to stop. You said that we don't need to influence the masses towards that. So my question for you is, then should we influence? Should we stop feminism then?
It depends on what aspect you mean. It's a really wide topic, and there's probably a lot of stuff that you and I would agree is like not helpful to society. But ultimately, I think the point of feminism, in its very most generic gray blobby form, is to give women that choice. And I think that's a good thing, that people should be allowed to choose what they want to do. Now, if you're going to talk about like, hey, like, should we promote women saying never have kids and go be girl boss? Like, yeah, again, that's promoting the opposite of the gender role. I'm not necessarily saying we do that, but I think feminism in its purest form is probably fine. I don't think that's a terrible thing.
Okay, so should we promote women should be independent and sexual liberation and stuff like that?
I think that we should promote women should have the choice to be independent and have sexual liberation if they want to.
But we already know that they all have a choice. So the thing is, what I'm getting at here, and I want the audience to pay attention, is that he's totally against promoting gender roles and masculinity and femininity, the good things about it, right?
No.
But in regards to feminine, you are.
No, I said we should take the good things from it and promote it in a non-gendered way.
In a non-gendered way. Oh, so
I'm against exclusively gendering things. So like, name me one thing for
you're against it, man.
Hold on, I did want.
Well, I'm curious, because I could change. They could change my mind here. Could you name me like a specific gender role, like a societal expectation of someone that would not be able to apply to both? Because when you say like, oh, give birth, you should have more babies. I don't really see that as a societal pressure insofar as like, yeah, we have to tell women to do this. Women have babies, they will do it. And if the replacement rate got to like a very, very low, like, hey, this is an existential crisis, I would probably promote some sort of government intervention. Like, look, guys, like in the same way conscription needs to happen to defend our country, woman, you got to have more babies, we're going to all go extinct. Like, I understand that. That's very different from, hey, like men do this, women do this. I think those can be extrapolated to both genders.
All right. First of all, Soy Pill, we need to get one thing straight, okay? I need you to say women for me.
I can't. I promise. I fuck this up all the time.
Women.
Women.
You've
I
been
fuck it up
watching
all the
too
time.
much TikTok, my friend, and it's
I
women.
don't watch any TikTok.
Not
I'm just stupid.
woman, okay? All right. In terms of expectations, though, do you think that men can give birth?
If we're talking about woke trans ideology, yes. Otherwise, obviously,
So you
biologically,
think
no.
that men can give birth? That's fantastic. So how does
If
it?
they identify as a man and they're biologically female, yes.
Okay, then let me refine the question for you, since we this is not the topic of the debate. Can biological men give birth?
No, not yet.
Sure.
I heard there's womb transplants on the way, though.
Okay.
Oh Lord.
But
Can a baby goat give birth if she identifies as if he identifies as a male?
Got him? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, in terms of this one, I think you're trying to evade the whole question about birth rates. You just said that if there was an existential crisis with the birth rate, then you would promote gender roles, right? You would promote that biological women should
I would
give
promote
birth.
women to have more.
campaign
I would
about that.
incentivize them, yeah. But I don't think that's a gender role.
And how would you
insofar
do
as, like,
that?
the way we know them today.
How would
Well,
you do that?
it's funny because, like I said, I brought up Georgia, I brought up Hungary, and they're trying to do things by saying, "Hey, have 5 kids, you'll pay no taxes," or like, I guess the Israel example works. I think that has a lot more to do with they feel like if they don't have enough babies, they will literally not have a country anymore.
Exactly.
And they're that close to it. And I think, yeah, if we got that close to it, maybe we would have to promote that women should have more babies. But again, when I talk about gender roles, I'm not talking about, hey, what is the biological imperative? I kind of said this in my opening to avoid this because I don't think it's nearly as important as most of these other. It's not about avoiding it because I don't think it's like a thing I can defend. It's just, it doesn't matter insofar as, yeah, should we tell women that they need to have kids? I don't think we should, unless it was so existential that we had to, and I just don't think we're there yet.
Okay.
So it's more about the fact that, hey, should women be allowed, like, have the choice to go work? It's like, yeah, absolutely, we should say you can choose that if you want. Is it better if women are in the house? Well, if they want to do that, they should be able to. And I don't think we should say you're a bad woman or you're not a real woman if you don't do either of those things. But that's more of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
And let me, Jake, for just a moment. I wanted to throw it back to Wick because he was waiting his turn for a while. I wanted to give him an opportunity, and then back to you, Jake.
I mean,
a little bit. I will say
to,
that.
but yeah.
Sure.
Yes, you absolutely can. Just let Wick go through.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I ditched out for a minute, so maybe I missed the answer to this question, right? Simply because my internet just had a hiccup. So if I do, just please repeat it for me. Forgive me for that. But did you ever answer Soy's question about what is a specifically like a masculine trait that only applies to men?
Yeah, defending the country.
You said the give birth
militarily.
one, but even though I kind of
but we're getting into
again. When you,
listen,
if I may,
listen,
if I
Wick,
may respond
Wick,
to that,
Wick. If you're going to sit here and argue with me that
not.
women can exclusively defend the country and that men don't have the imperative to defend the country, then we're just going to get into a territory of
Have you ever
absurdum.
defended the country? Have you ever served?
Okay, so that means that men can't defend the country. Well done. Yes, great
have
argument.
you ever served?
Great argument, Wick.
No, I'm just
great
asking
argument.
just so I know
because
how much
I've never done it.
If I may,
means that
Jake,
men
he's
can't.
not saying that men.
What does it have to do with men being able to better defend the country? It makes no sense. Wick, by the way, it bugged me because his voice, I was like, his voice, he sounds like someone. And he reminds me of Jeremy Boring, the former Daily Wire CEO. His voice, anyway, it reminds me of his. So now, whenever I hear him talk, I just think it's Jeremy Boring talking. Anyway, what did you guys think about this debate so far? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Give this video a like if you liked it. Let's continue.
Can't defend the country. He's saying that this is clearly not a gender role, that only men can like do this. And in fact, most men don't. I mean, like the percentage of people in the military that are men, or just people in the military.
The reason I'm asking, right, is because I don't know how much I have to explain to you about how like our defense structure works, our defensive industrial base, or anything regarding war or anything like that works. So I need to know how much experience you have with it. Have you ever served?
No.
In any capacity? No. Okay. So we have a wealth of people in the American military, right? And also in the Israeli military, which you mentioned to somehow support your point that, women can't defend the country and things like that. There's this thing called technology, and it works wonders. We have, and you can see this in the Ukraine and Russian war, a lot of the fighting now is done via drones. And sure, it's not exclusively to that, but to act as if women cannot support our defense and serve in the country, and that it is a strictly masculine trait to defend the country is just, forgive the French here, but it's bullshit.
Okay, what's the
Yeah,
death?
what-
What's
and
the
what
death
is-
toll? Look, if you look at the death toll of the Russia-Ukraine war, what is it meant to women, Wick?
Do you know?
Yeah, but do you know?
What is it? Tell me.
Well, you don't. You seem like an expert about it.
I'm
You seem
I'm
like an
just
expert about
asking you what
warfare.
you
So
think
do
it
you
is.
know? Do you know what the death toll is? If you had to guess, what would it be?
And then
I'm
name all the
sure
oblasts.
that more men have died than women because more men served. Than
What do you think? What do you think roughly? Like, if you had to give me a percentage, how many percentage of people do you think would
10
be
to
men?
1, 5 to 1, something like that.
Yeah,
500 to 1.
Yeah, it's at least not over 99% men who are dying in warfare. Do you think that's a coincidence, Wick? Do you think that's just because maybe the women are so
I
good
already
at combat
told you
they're
it's
just
because
dodging bullets, or do you
most
think
of
that it's
the- most of
because
the people
the
serving on
men
the front
are the
line are
ones
men?
who are conscripted
Let
to the
Jake
front
go then.
line to defend the country because they're literally fighting with bayonets in some regards, and they're fighting in hand-to-hand combat. You're saying that the warfare is so different. No, it's not. This is like World War I, World War II type warfare that's happening over in Russia, Ukraine at the moment. And there's thousands and thousands of men dying every single day. So you can sit there from your little studio and say that, oh, hypothetically, women could press a button and women could drop a bomb. But that's just not the reality of the way that things are working. And it's the exact same thing in the Israeli-Hamas war at the moment.
Well, maybe the
All
women
men
aren't dying because
dying.
they're smart and they're hiding behind the drone controller.
No,
You know,
That's
Like, all the
probably what it
stupid
is.
men
They're
are
probably
going
just
out
dodging
there.
bullets.
It's just silly, right? To
Okay,
think that,
tell me how it's silly.
Sure, there are women right now in the American military who help pilot drones and things like that, and these are very, very lethal lethal weapon systems, lethal equipment. And while yes, there are places where it takes strength, who do you think would win in a fight? If I gave a woman a gun and you didn't have a gun, and I told you, you guys get to fight, and you had to put money on who's going to win that fight, who would it be?
Yeah, well, it's disanalogous. How about we say this? This is a fair analogy.
Answer my question,
This is a fair
please.
analogy. If you give a man
Can
a
you answer my
gun
question?
and a woman a
I
gun, who
want
do you
the
think is
audience to
more
know
likely
that
to
he
win?
cannot answer the question.
Well, because
Just
it's
let
a
that be
stupid
known.
question. If you give a woman a gun and she's pointing
Yeah, no, obviously it is a stupid question. I mean, what kind of that'll be like saying, who do you think would win in a fight? If you gave a woman a gun, but then a man a bazooka, then who would win? It's like we could just keep doing this all day. Well, if you gave a man a knife and a woman a rocket launcher, who would win? It's like, what? Like it's stupid. And in this situation, you would be assuming that if we had women versus men, and if you gave all the women guns, you'd be assuming that none of the men had guns. And that's not what's going on here. And by the way, too, if we're talking about Russia and Ukraine, how come the Ukrainian government is kidnapping men off the street to fight in the war, where they're literally driving up and just taking random men off the street to fight the war? How come they're not kidnapping random women to fight? How come? How come it's majority? Like, I don't know if there are. Maybe there's random cases where they kidnap women, but how come they're at least mostly kidnapping men?
woman is going to be able to kill him. But it's disanalogous, Wick, because if you have a Russian man with a gun and a Ukrainian woman with a gun, or let's say we have 20 on each side, 20 men, 20 women, the women are getting smoked every single time. The women are
Why,
going to
don't you
get
think
smoked.
they have better training
There's
than
a
the
whole
Russian
host
military?
of factors that would allow women to just entirely smoke that regiment of men. Mostly it would come on to intelligence. Who
It's
was
funny,
able
just
to see the
It's
other
really
people.
funny how this is just not happening in reality. This is just a complete figment of your imagination, Wick. This is just not happening in reality. So you can sit here and you can argue all day, oh, well, we could give the women some special forces training. But it's not, why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they doing that?
99% of the casualties are men.
Yes.
So that might suggest that the women are dying at a less high rate because they are better at it.
No, because they are.
That is stupid. What? Okay, so if women are just better at fighting war, then why aren't we just sending nothing but women to fight the war?
Not in the military. They are not in the military, Wick.
I'll just let the audience decide on that
I'll
one.
refocus it a little bit, Wick, because I don't think he's understanding, or maybe he's just being disingenuous. But obviously, there's more men in the military for a reason.
Yes,
women are in the
rule.
women are in the military in some supportive roles and some of the roles that you stated as well. But it's on a macro level, would you want a lot of women to join? Like his example, 20 women versus 20 men. The men would destroy them. And it's not because like Soy Pills said, let me finish. It's not because like Soy Pills said, well, they can probably destroy the men if they had better training. No, it's from a biological thing, right?
What biological imperative makes them better at shooting?
Incorrect. Biologically, men are better at reflexes. Men are better at eye-hand coordination, and a multitude of other things.
They're stronger to carry the
biologically, they're stronger to carry the equipment, everything. Biologically, men are just better operators at guns and everything else, bro. Women will get destroyed.
I mean, this is kind of a
I
silly
think that
hypothetical, so I
if
don't
I
really
may.
jump in too much further, because I do have a question, and this kind of brings this back to this gender roles thing. So I would posit that you would both agree with this, but let me know if you don't. Do you think that men have a duty to defend the household?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So would you say if the man's at work and someone comes in and the mom is there with the kids, does she have a duty to defend her kids?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes.
Okay. So would you say that then we could both say, hey, parents should probably defend their children, and we can say that without gendering it, and that's totally a fine statement, and takes the positives from both of those gender roles and says, hey, why don't we promote good behavior that's going to make society flourish by saying, be a virtuous person and defend your children?
Hold on a second. Do you believe that a man has a duty to defend his household? Or would you put your
Yeah, of
wife in
course.
front? Okay, so then you believe
Well,
what
again,
we believe.
see how you've like now implicated a situation where, hey, don't you think it's worse if you throw the weaker and less effective person into the fray when you have a dangerous situation? And I've completely not talked about that at all. Like,
Weaker and less
I agree.
effective?
I don't think you should. I also don't think that a child should be on the front line of that and say, hey, you know, I'm going to throw my kid in front of the bullets so I can get a couple extra shots off. But I'm saying that both the man and the woman should be protecting their household to the extent of their abilities. And you don't have to say, hey, if you can't do this, you're a bad man or you're a bad woman.
Hold on a second.
So like he even agrees right there that, yeah, obviously, like it's not like he agreed that, yeah, the men should be the one that mostly protecting the home. And, you know, but like there's no disagreements there. Like, yes, obviously, listen, it's the man's duty to protect the home. But yes, if he's not there, and if it's just the mom and the kid there, then yes, then by default, it should go down to, yes, the mother should be protecting the home. Like, that's just common sense stuff. Like, no one's saying that, oh yeah, the men should it's only the men's duty to protect the home. The woman shouldn't even bother if there's a home intruder there. Yes, obviously it's up to them. But because the father is the strongest one in the household, generally, it's their duty to protect the home. And yes, if he's not there, then yes, obviously then it goes to the mother. But just because there are certain situations then, like there have been certain situations where it was a mother and the child, and there's an intruder, and the intruder attacks the mother, the child grabs the gun, and shoots the intruder to protect his mother. You know, those are situations too. But because that happens, that doesn't mean that it's also the responsibility of the child to protect the home. I don't know why it's so hard to grasp. Like I said, it's like they have it in their head, this whole, like, oh, my 50s, my Handmaid's Tale. Like, we have to teach both of them. No, we can't teach that it's only the men. Like, they're so stuck on it. And it's annoying.
So just quickly, you do agree that you just said that women are weaker and less effective.
Yeah, in principle and in general, I don't think in every case, but yeah, in most cases, I would say.
So therefore,
Wick,
it would be yeah. Wick, do you agree?
That's just factual.
Physically, yes.
Okay, cool. Well, so then,
But again, if my wife
completely-
had a gun and
yeah.
I did not, then the one with the gun is going to be doing the work.
Okay,
You
let's just give the
understand,
women
right?
the guns. I'm sure they'll be super turned on
If
by
they
that
happen
statement.
to have it.
Yeah.
Again, you're positing this situation, right? Where like,
Listen,
oh,
if
the
the woman
man
has the
has to
gun, she
come up
throws
and
the gun to the
s-
man.
I guess I don't get to talk.
I just heard the
guess you guys
collective
get to-
vagina
Yeah,
of every
I
woman in
want
this
to
whole entire chat
just
go
kind
dry.
of
But fair
reset
enough.
the panel, and I want to just throw a funny little joke out there. I think I'm the only one here that actually has served in the military.
I served for 6 years.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wick,
Yeah, I
I
was a
didn't know.
cryptolinguist. That's why I asked, right? That's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
Unlike
That is
the
funny.
yeah, I guess you got your chatters who are like the Meal Team 6, the people like that, right? But no, I've served alongside many women in the armed services,
But
the Air Force
I
specifically.
think we should
and they
carry
were
on
very
that
effective.
that line though. Just in terms, so you guys actually agree that women are weaker and less effective than men. That completely makes our
In
point
general,
about the military thing. That you just made our point. You just completely just destroyed your own argument.
What's
there.
your point? That
Our
all
point
men should serve
is
in the
that
military?
You were saying that women can be as effective at military and that they're dying at lesser rates because they're just so damn good at it. They're
Well,
just
I was
dodging
joking
bullets.
about
No,
the
I
whole
was
military
you
meaning
guys
on
are
your. Hold
dodging
on, if I
bullets.
may. I was making fun of your point. You understand why I was saying that, right? Because I was making fun of your dumbass point from earlier, where you said 99% of men are dying. It's because yes, you have far more men in the military than you have women. So obviously that's going to be the case. But to act as if that means something in the case of the argument that we're having with gender roles. It is just not true. Look,
well, it does mean something. Let me stop you right there.
I said at the beginning. I said it. You can't stop me
I've
right
been
there.
blown out
So I
there.
said at the beginning, right? I said at the beginning of this discussion during my opening statement that I think the best person for the job, that just so happens to be men in many cases. But when we go into these traditional gender roles and we make them strict and we make them restrictive, what that does is that women who might happen to be better marksmen than everyone else, right, that's around them, which can happen. I'm sure you would agree. Like, it might be rare, but it can happen. When we make these gender roles too restrictive, what we do is we lessen our ability to have the best person for the job in there. And again, while I, on general, might be way more able to carry equipment and hike farther and things like that, if the woman in my squad happens to be a better shot than me, they're going to be taking point because obviously.
So here's what I wanted to say.
Did he freeze?
No,
no.
still
Oh,
here.
I thought he
Oh,
was
I
chill with him.
apologize.
I'm very still at times.
How do you think he survived in the military so long? They
True,
couldn't
I
see
I thought he
him.
froze for a second. But
Camo.
so in regards to this whole point about the military and everything like that, like, it was a lot of influence behind getting men to be in the military. This is why men go towards being in the military. If you even look at, like, commercials in the 90s, there were so many commercials that was pushing forth a lot of propaganda to get men in the 90s, the 80s, the 50s, all of it. It was a lot of influence.
Joe.
And also the military, they have a big recruiting team to recruit men into the military. So think about if we just took that away. Think about if we took the influence away of the military influencing society to join for their service. If we took that away, there will be less men. There most likely be less men going into the military.
But
That
again,
would
you're-
conclude to that. Yes, right?
We're not arguing to say we should get rid of military recruitment. We're saying it doesn't make you less of a man if you don't serve in the military. And this kind of goes back. We keep bringing up military. I don't know why. This is such a small minority of the population, let alone men. And to say that it's a male gender role is ridiculous because most men don't embody this at all. And that's kind of
I
the
got
point.
you, but you're missing something, because remember my question, which you never answered. My question that you never, no, you didn't answer it. My question that you never answered was when you said that people should have the freedom to choose, right? And then I said, well, influence is one of the most powerful forces out there, right?
Okay.
So should we influence people to adhere to gender roles, or should we influence people not to? And
I said no, first of all. Let me ask you this.
Said no.
Do you think that telling men to go into the military is
one you said no. To that one you said no.
Gentlemen.
To the other question, my follow-up, well, should we influence the masses towards feminism? You said you couldn't answer the question. You couldn't answer the question. So it seems, stop it, Soy Pill. Stop it.
Hold on.
I'll elaborate.
Hold on. David, please finish your statement, and then Soy Pill, you're welcome to respond.
Yeah, so it seems, Soy Pill and also Wick, it seems that you are okay, fully okay with promoting and influencing the masses towards sexual liberation and some degenerate behavior and away from gender roles. Well, okay, cool. Well, let's just say away from gender roles. Away from. It seems that you are okay with influencing the masses away from gender roles. That is true, but you have a problem with gender roles. You have this problem, and you even know, y'all both concluded that, well, pushing society, well, not pushing society, you do know the positive effects of gender roles. When people adhere to gender roles, you do know the positive effects. So if we know that influence is the most powerful force, well, shouldn't we want to influence the masses towards something that we know brings about a positive result rather than a negative result? We know the negative results of feminism, but you didn't. Oh, you said, "Oh, well, no. I think that feminism is cool. It's good. It's a good thing."
No, hold on. So again, let me respond real quick, and then you can jump in because this is me not answering the question.
I think
what
we
I
might
said
have
was not
different answers,
we
by the way,
need.
but-
Yeah, and I think actually we would disagree on this, Wick. So go ahead. Feel free to contradict me. I'm not saying we should promote feminism and we shouldn't promote traditional gender roles. I again spoke from a very vague term of, hey, we should promote good behaviors, and we're probably going to disagree on which those behaviors are. I'm saying those good behaviors don't need to be gendered, and I'm saying that if you're promoting feminism, you're probably going to be promoting potentially some harmful behaviors. That doesn't mean we should promote feminism. The only thing I said was, well, because feminism is such a encompassing term, if we're just going off the definition of should people be able to choose, should women have more choice in society, then I guess I'm promoting choice and you're promoting promoting, no, I think that men and women should be in this very strict kind of lane, and that's just what I want to move away from. I think that people should be able to choose what they want to choose. If that's what feminism is, then sure, but you're kind of promoting it as this like dichotomy of it's the opposite of gender roles, which to a degree it is if you think women traditionally shouldn't have more choice. But
no, it is the opposite of gender roles. Feminism, I mean, we all have a clear, I'm not sure what your definition of feminism is, but let's just, my definition would be that it's the move towards egalitarianism, where men and women are equal. And you concluded with your own statement where Jake checked you on, that women are weaker than men. So they're not equal to a man. You actually
feminism existing as men and women are going to become the same strength.
Hold on.
You do not want to stop the promotion of feminism, but you want to stop the promotion of gender roles. It doesn't make any sense where you know yourself that feminism is rooted into nonsense. It's not even rooted into reality. You know that men are stronger than women. Look at you. You got a little tight shirt on with your muscles out. You're probably going to the gym. So you adhere to some reality. Plane landed.
Real quick, I have to keep responding because I keep saying feminism is just. I'm just saying feminism is women having the ability to choose. If you want to make it a more specific definition, we can get into the minutia of whether or not I agree with. Hey, should we promote XYZ behavior? I just think people should be able to choose what they want, and if that's what feminism is, then I'm fine with that.
So everything is choice to you, Soy Pill.
What do you mean? No, you asked me to define feminism. So I'm saying in the most vague terms.
But everything is choice to you. That's what I'm saying. So you're saying feminism is freedom to choose. Gender roles is freedom to choose. Like everything is freedom to choose.
Hold on. Can I, if I may?
Go ahead, Wick.
I just want to jump in here. Cooley, do you not think, is that your name, Cooley? Am I getting that right? I don't want to
yes.
get it right. Okay.
You got it correct.
Do you not think, or do you think that women should not be able to choose what they do in their life?
That isn't what I said.
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking so I can know your answer.
I've already, you wasn't active listening. I already answered the question and I agreed with Soypa. I said, well, yeah, I do think people should have freedom of choice. But I said that influence. You
went on a monologue about how.
No, I said influence
against Soy about how is choice everything to you? And I guess to ask you that question, right? When is your line where choice is not the issue? When do women not get to choose for themselves?
He's speaking about influence, not choice.
I'm speaking about influence. I'm saying that influence is a huge predictor on what someone is going to choose. Influence creates, stop it. Influence creates thinking. Thinking creates behavior.
Do you think that influence is a form of control?
Sure.
Influence can be used as a form of control.
Okay. I think that people have the ability to break away from their influence. There's plenty of influences that I have felt in my life where I've decided, you know what, even though I'm being influenced to do a certain thing, I am a free agent and capable of free choice, and I'm able to not succumb to that influence and do other things, right? So the reason I'm advocating here tonight against this enforcement of strict traditional gender roles is because I think that influencing
strict gender roles,
that society, community, etc., trying to influence people into these strict gender roles does a lot of harm to people because it restricts their choice. As you've admitted right here, it is a form of control. And I think that we should not, neither society nor the government, should be in the business of trying to control its citizens to that degree. And I think that if a woman wants to go out and enter the workforce, she should be allowed to do so and not looked down upon for doing so. And if a man wants to be a stay-at-home dad and wants his wife to go out and work, that should be their choice. Unless you're married to the guy, it shouldn't be your decision.
Can I just really quickly?
So would you stop the influence of feminism? Real quick, would you stop the influence of feminism?
I think that has been pernicious in many ways too. Yes.
Yeah.
You would. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. Cheers, man. So you said that the government shouldn't be. How did you feel about the mask mandates?
How did I feel about the mask mandates?
Yeah.
Do you think those were gendered?
No. I'm just
saying. I think
that
the government has a duty to protect its citizens. I didn't like the mandates. I don't like mandates in general. I didn't like the COVID lockdowns.
Wait.
I didn't like the mandate vaccines, anything like that.
But
I don't think these are the similar thing to society influencing its citizens.
Line of questioning, and you'll be able to understand. So, did you think that it was good that people were wearing masks?
Was it good?
Yeah.
I think it was neutral.
Okay. Did you think that it was good that people were getting the vax?
I think that it was neutral, neither good nor evil.
Okay. Do you think it's good that we don't? Do you think that it would be good if we don't have domestic violence?
Do I think it would be good to not have domestic violence? Sure.
Yeah. So do you think that the government should be promoting people not to engage in domestic violence?
Yes, I think there should be laws against domestic violence. I agree.
Okay, so you're saying that the government should promote certain behaviors?
Yes, but not
Why?
gender roles.
Why should they do that? Why should you? But you made a sweeping statement before. You said that the government should not be influencing people to do this. Why? Why should they influence people to do that?
If you listen to my entire statement, I said the government should not be influencing or controlling its citizens in regards to gender roles and their choices of how to live their lives and what to do. Now, obviously, there are some basic restrictions on this. I can't go out and punch someone in the face. I think it should be against the law for me to do so. I shouldn't be able to go out and choose to steal someone's stuff because it negatively impacts others. But when it comes to being a parent, right, or a stay-at-home dad, or a mom who works and things like that, I don't think that these have enough negative impacts on society to warrant the government coming in and mandating it. Do you think they should be mandated? Do you think that the government should come in and place restrictions on men staying at home?
Well, first of
being in
all,
the
I just want to
workforce?
point out that that's not what you said before. What you said before is that the government should not be in the business of influencing people like we're saying. We are saying the opposite thing. We are saying
But
that
it was
there
in the
should be some
context of
sort
this
of
whole
societal
conversation.
influence and governmental
Are you done?
influence on good behaviors. I mean, you can try and just throw out ad hominems if you want there, but unfortunately,
You can try to
when you
pronounce it.
take your position here, this is how people end up with driving their white van and getting caught on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator. When you take your exact position here, this is how
You know a
men
lot
end
about
up
that.
in those positions. So, anyways, yeah.
Wait,
Ooh. It's funny because before he started this debate, he was talking about how this guy looks like a guy that was on To Catch a Predator. Looks just like a guy. I don't know which one he's talking about, but he specifically looks like a dude. So I love that he threw that in there.
In regards
elaborate on that? I'm
in regards to well, this is weak men who don't have a purpose in life and
No,
who
how
don't
did
have
you get
who
caught
don't
by
have
Chris
who
Hansen?
don't
Oh.
have an imperative. I was actually going to
No,
ask
tell
you
us how you got caught
I was
by
actually
Chris
going to
Hansen.
ask you
Tell
the
us.
very
I'm
same
very
thing
curious,
because
Big
I mean you look
No,
awfully
you
familiar
would.
and I
All
thought you looked
right,
really familiar. Anyways,
I would be interested with an elaboration on how it gets from point A to point B. I think Soy was asking for it.
I was
if you
asking
want to
how does
elaborate.
lack of gender roles lead to white vans kidnapping children and
well, I mean, look, if you deprive men of purpose and if you deprive men of mission and the ability to be able to have a family and to be able to pursue legacy, this is when men get depressed and when men basically fall off the rails. So whenever I see these guys who end up in these really terrible situations like Wick, where he ends up on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator, I always think that there's just a distinct lack of purpose there, and that comes from performing your own
Talk a
masculine
lot
duty.
about kids, man. That's weird.
yeah. So
Okay, let's not go
can I
down
respond?
that.
Jake Rattlesnake, all joking aside, Jake Rattlesnake is absolutely 100% correct, as is Cooley. Listen, these two soy boys over here, Wick TV and the soy pill. I'm taking the soy pill. They're cleaning on to this whole attitude that again, the whole, it's going to become the Handmaid's Tale if you do this. This is going to be harmful if you tell women that they should probably stay home. And they keep using force. No one is talking about forcing anybody to do anything. But all these people, it's like whenever you have Christian conservatives giving their viewpoints on how they think it should be, then you have these people over here that are so triggered by it. And they say, well, you shouldn't be forcing people to do anything. And it's like, well, no one's talking about using force. No one's talking about arresting women if they apply for a job, or if a man decides to be a stay-at-home dad, putting him in jail. No one's talking that. No one's suggesting that. No one's bringing that up. We're saying that, listen, we've tried this whole feminism thing. We've told women you could be whatever you want. You could be a stay-at-home mother, or you could be the girl boss CEO, or you could be both. You could have it all, baby. And it doesn't seem to be working out. Society isn't for the better. It seems to be for the worse. And so we're coming on here and saying, yeah, listen, this whole interchanging of men and women, they're just interchangeable. It's not true. And maybe we should go back to how it was before, in a system that actually worked for the better. We're not saying that men can't be stay-at-home dads, and we're not saying women shouldn't be allowed to work. We're saying that maybe we should use some influence and bring back a culture where we value stay-at-home moms more and we value working dads more. And it's a lot of work because it's really complicated how we got to this point. It's not just one single thing. This move toward feminism and feminist propaganda, that's definitely a big thing, but there's a lot more to it. It's good that you have people like Jake Rattlesnake here and Cooley arguing for the side of common sense and for the return of gender roles. Well, meanwhile, these two soy boys over here they just don't get it. But what did you think about this? Sound off in the comment section below. Give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you really liked it. If you want to see the full debate, the link is down in the description below. I also encourage you to subscribe to the Raging Tomatoes channel. She hosts good debates on her channel. It's a smaller channel, so I would like to encourage you to seek out the Raging Tomatoes, subscribe to her channel. She has many debates like this one. And I'll see you guys later.